Ladies and gents, it's your boy G here from Hybrid BMX. Coming back at you again today with a new video. This one, we're going to be going over what is the difference if you're out there looking for a BMX bike that you're going to take on as a project or a collector's piece, but something that's still functional and rideable. But the other question is also, if you do want a collector's bike, what should you be looking for and not looking for? And what is the main price point is a lot of the other question. A lot of times guys will ask, how much should I see it on forums all the time on BMX groups. It's, how much should I pay for this bike that I see on the marketplace? So we're going to be going over all those questions today. And we're going to make a start here with this Dave Mirra 540 Air Haro bikes. So this is a Haro Bikes 540 Air by Dave Mirra, or Dave Mirra signature. It is the component brand they chose, that Haro chose for this bike was Fusion. So it has Fusion pedals, it has a Fusion seat post. I believe that, I'm trying to think, I think the headset, or not the headset, but the stem, yeah, the stem is Fusion. It has SST brand gyro kit, Tektro brakes in the back, but everything to this bike, this is why I picked this bike up. I picked this bike up because, number one, when I was a kid, this was the dream bike. Back in the late 90s, this is a 1999, but back in the mid to late 90s, a Haro BMX bike was like the holy grail of BMX bikes at the time. I mean, there were other companies that were up and coming at the time. There was Eastern, and there was DK, and there were other brands that still. Hoffman was a good brand. Hoffman bikes. Dyno was still big. A lot of kids rode Dynos and Diamondbacks. But this was like if someone in the neighborhood was riding on this bike in the 90s, in the late 90s, this was the bike. This was it. If you had a Dave Mirra or a Ryan Nyquist Haro bike, signature bike, you were the bee's knees. You were the kid of the neighborhood. But like I said, it's all original parts, which I will grab you guys and show you the whole entire bike. So I'm going to stop the camera right now, and I'm going to get on to showing you all the parts on this bike. All right, so here is an up close of the Dave Mirra 1999 Dave Mirra 540 Air by Haro Bikes. You had the knee saver bars, which I actually had to replace these bars, because if you look at this bar and compared to this one, it's bent right here. I might try to just grab a pole and bend it back into place, but if I can find a pair of chrome knee saver bars, I'm going to get those instead. The grips obviously need replaced, and the gyro is good. It definitely needs a tune-up, so this bike will be getting a tune-up. It'll definitely be getting a good solid cleaning too. So I'm going to take it all apart and re-clean and fix everything. So we have even the original tires on this bike. We have the Haro Bikes chrome forks. You have the giant Haro. I'll never forget these hubs. They're just massive. And then you have the Fusion crankset. This, unfortunately, I do not have the biohazard symbol Haro sprocket. I have just the regular Haro bike sprocket. But I'd like to get the Fusion nuclear symbol for that, biohazard symbol. But there's the Fusion. All the Fusion stickers are still good. But as you can see, it just really needs a good cleaning. This back hub is a little trashed. It still works, it's still rideable, but it's pretty loose. But it needs a little love, needs a clean up. For $100, this bike was way worth it. Way worth it. In the marketplace, it's going for roughly about $150 to $200 on Bicycle Blue Book. So it's worth looking into, and a bike like this, unfortunately right now, the mid-school BMX bikes and later mid-school BMX bikes haven't really accrued a solid value yet. But my belief is that these bikes will eventually gain value over time. When they become more rare, a really good all parts matching version like this one will go for a decent amount of money. It's just not there yet. The market just isn't there for these bikes yet. So this is probably going to be a bike that I clean up, and it'll be a wall mounter. I'll ride it every once in a while. I'll keep it cleaned up and tuned up, and when the market gets better, it will be sold. But right now, it's just I grabbed it while I could at the price tag that I could grab it at. So we're going to move on to the Mongoose that I have, which is a little bit older than this one, but it's still a mid-school bike, and I'll explain to you why I bought that bike as well, guys. We're on to the next kind of BMX bike that's starting to become collectible. This era is still tough. The mid-school era bikes, again, if you can find these at a yard sale or in a dumpster or at an estate sale, this is awesome if you can spend 20 to 30 bucks on it. If you go any kind of bit above that, this is one of those bikes I'm probably going to lose money on. I don't want to lose money on it, but hopefully I clean it up nice enough that somebody will at least give me my money back for it. I paid $100 for this. Now, a lot of people would say, why the heck would you pay $100 for a mid-school Mongoose? Now, I personally paid $100 for a mid-school Mongoose because this is the last of a dying era. They started coming out with the Chinese, right after this bike, they came out with the Walmart, or the Wall Moose is what people would call them, or Wall Gooses, where it was Walmart bought into Mongoose and started producing the high production number bikes for Walmart. And they cheapened out. They started using aluminum and really cheap metals. This, on the other side, is 4130 chromoly tubing on the frame. Also, I believe it's in the bars. The more unnoticeable stuff, but still is mid-90s, would be the two-part stem that went into the forks rather than having a full fork and an actual stem. But this is very old school anyway. So this is kind of also where bikes were starting to become, there was the mix between old school parts and mid school parts, where you were starting to see more three-piece cranks. You were seeing a lot less of the stems that were like this and more of the standard stems with the forks that went all the way through the frame of the bike. And this became 990s on the front rather than just a through the forks front brake. But a bike like this, I still believe over time will accrue value. I don't think this will lose value. I think it will probably gain value later on once there's a more niche version for this category of bike. So I'm going to give you guys a close-up of this bike here shortly. And then we will move on to the Excalibur that I have, which is like a 70s BMX from a department store. And why. That was also probably not the best purchase, but also why that's the kind of bike you should look for. And certain things about it that you should look for and certain things you shouldn't look for. So we'll give you guys a upfront view of this bike here just shortly. Alright, so now with the Mongoose, we have, these wheels are actually chrome, but they're so dirty that you can't tell. And the whole frame is chromed. But again, it's also very corroded and dirty. Same with the handlebars. But I'm going to do an episode here shortly, guys, probably within the next couple of weeks, that's going to go over how to get rid of rust on handlebars and other bike components that are chromed. I'm probably going to have to... It's even got the original... this is another all-original parts bike. I'm going to have to get different rear brakes, which I might actually have a pair lying around from one of the other bikes. And I'm going to need a new brake cable for this bike as well. But what I'm going to try to do with this bike is hopefully a quick turnaround. I'm going to look for a collector that's interested in buying it. Hopefully get like 150 bucks out of this bike is what I'm hoping for. So, not looking for a big amount of money out of it, but it'll be a fun little restore. But yeah, that's going to be soon to come. So now we'll get on to the 70s style like department store bike, BMX bike that we're going to talk about here. Alright guys, so I'm back here again. I know I told you guys like I was all thrilled about this Mongoose Expert Pro. This was a mid-school bike and all this crap. Well, I went on a couple of my BMX forums and I posted it because I was pretty close to having this bike finished. Now, I was told finally by some collectors that this, number one, is not a Mongoose Expert Pro. It's actually a Mongoose motivator with Mongoose Expert Pro stickers on it. I was told because in '96 this would be a loop tail on the Expert Pro, and I was shown pictures and videos myself. The guy that I bought this bike off of, I thought I was getting a steal for a restore. But the guys that I was online with that I've been collecting for a long time gave me some good information, things to watch out for next time I go trying to collect even mid-school BMX bikes that I don't know anything about. Mongoose is one of those brands I didn't know a whole lot about. I knew some like the Moto Mag, stuff like that, but I didn't know that Expert Pros were only loop tails. So one of the things is threadless stems on Expert bikes and on any Mongoose Pro bikes. It's going to be a threadless stem. It's not going to be a threaded stem with this cheap Walmart crap on it. And then the other thing is this guy that I bought it off of. I bought this bike for $100, and now I'm like kicking myself because it's not even worth. I mean, the motivator isn't a bad priced bike. I think I could get like $70 for it, probably 70 to 100. I'm gonna try to recoup my money off of it because I did restore it and got it running decent. I'm gonna put grips on it, put rear brakes on it, maybe the front brakes back on. But what this guy did is, and I wish I remember what his profile was, but I think he's already off of Facebook, which should have been a dead seller for me anyway. Especially when I asked him to buy his whole collection, he was willing to sell this whole collection of bikes for $300. This right here was on it, and I thought that was just part of the sticker. So I didn't take it off when I polished the bike. What I come to find out is it's not a sticker at all. It is, this guy was so cheap that he didn't even take the time to pull the decal sticker off. He didn't even take the time to pull the decal sticker off the bike. He left it dirty, probably thinking that I would think it was old. So he conned me into thinking that it was an old bike because he put aftermarket stickers on it that he bought off of eBay, which is what one of the collectors told me. This guy got over on me by putting Expert Pro stickers, sorry guys, I'll peel the rest of this off of here, by putting repo stickers on it that somebody printed for the sticker maker, like decal stickers. So here's the other one. Here, let me pull that off. See, even the 4130, and that's the one that really threw me for a loop. It actually wasn't these stickers that I was a little bit. I will admit, I was a little suspect of these stickers. But when I saw this sticker, the Race Ready 4130 Mongoose sticker, I was like, oh, it's 4130 chromoly. So, perfect. That's going to be a good bike because it's a Race Ready Mongoose Expert Pro. And I was like, yeah, so $100 makes sense because then I could turn around and flip it and make maybe a $50 to $70 profit after I restore it. And then I found out that it was a motivator and not a... The other thing that was a dead giveaway the guys told me is that this seat post is supposed to be straight. It's not supposed to be one of the layback seat posts. So yeah, just be careful out there, guys, when you're buying used bikes and you're trying to flip them for a trade value. I mean, no matter what you do, if you buy a bike, make sure it's something that if you end up doing your research later on and you feel like you're kicking yourself over it, like I don't feel too bad because I'll probably, once I put it together, I'll cruise it around a little bit in the spring before I sell it. Because it'll just be fun. It'll be a fun little cruiser. And I'll probably outsource the stickers for the motivator stickers and get actual motivator stickers on it instead. That way it's legit and people don't think I'm trying to jip them for trying to sound expert pro. Because that's what the one guy said. He was like, either A, you bought it off somebody and they gypped you by putting aftermarket decals on and on a department store bike, or B, you're the one who put the stickers on, and either way, both of those things are crappy to do. And I couldn't help but agree with him on that. I mean, I'm glad that he caught it before I did, before I sold it to somebody else who became a sucker for it. Because nothing ticks me off more when people lie about stuff. So, but yeah, lesson learned. You get burned. But this is part of, you know, building bikes. So, this is part of the life. This is part of building used BMX bikes. So, yeah, guys. I mean, I know a lot about my mid-school bikes, which helps me out in like later mid-school bikes. But these earlier mid-schools, I'm not so keen on them. I just don't know. I know a lot about the more professional brands, but Mongoose and the more department store like bikes, I try to stay away from them for this exact reason. So, but anyways, guys, like I said, lesson learned. And I'll show you guys another video of this thing when it's finally finished. Later. This is a like 70s style department store BMX bike. Now, this could probably be the easiest one to confuse with an actual like old school collector's BMX bike. And that's what happened to me on this one. Luckily, I didn't pay a whole ton of money for this. I only paid $35 for this bike. And I'm going to try to get like $50 to $75 out of it, hopefully, once I clean it all up. But unfortunately, I just didn't know enough about collecting BMX yet. But a couple of key giveaways that this isn't like a Mongoose Moto Mag or a Schwinn Predator or something along those lines. You look at the frame, and the frame itself, if it was just the frame, it would probably throw anyone for a loop that's a collector. Just because there's a lot of dead giveaways for these 70s style bikes. There was a lot of things that made them look like they're better bikes than they actually are. Because a lot of these were like replica bikes. So this is kind of based off of that, you know, Mongoose Moto Mag kind of look. It's got the circle here for the stay for in between the top tube and the bottom tube. The gussets in between the top top tube and the bottom tube, there's a little circle there like the Moto Mag has. The plastic BMX seat was very common back then. But when I put it up on forums, the guy said this. One of the biggest dead giveaways is these old school cranks that are kind of just bolt. They're kind of like old bolt cranks. They're not super exciting and they don't actually work for nothing. They're great for riding the bike around, but that's about all they're good for. And then another big dead giveaway is pedal back brakes. Pedal back style braking, and no free coaster. These older bikes, a lot of them had the free coaster wheels, and you wouldn't see a kickstand usually. The bars are hard to tell whether or not they would be a old school style bar, because these are very typical of old school bikes. A lot of them have the angled top tube of the bars. But this bike cleaned up, I think it'll look nice. And it'll be a nice piece of somebody's collection. But just knowing what I do now, I wouldn't probably buy this bike again or buy a bike similar to it. So it's just stuff to keep your eyes out for. Try to look for a serial number, or and don't give them a certain value. If you go to look for the bike, give them a price tag and stick to that price tag. Like, even if you think to yourself, like, what I did with this bike is I went to the guy's house, I offered him like 20 bucks, I think, or something along those lines, like I think $15, $20 for this bike. And I went to go look at it, and it looked like an old school bike. And he told me, no, I'm not selling that bike, I'm selling a different bike. And then I left, and he said, I'll take 35 if you come back and get it now. And at the time, I was like, okay, well, 35, that's not too much more than what I was originally going to pay. Why not? And that's when I went with $35 for this bike. I really overspent on it, so I'm hoping that I can recoup a little bit of my profit in a bike that is a little bit more old school, though not very collectible. So hopefully with cleanup and restoration of this bike, we'll get a little bit better. But I'm going to give you guys a closer look and explain some of these components a little bit better so you know what I'm talking about. And when you're out looking yourself, it'll be a little bit easier for you to understand what you're looking for in an old school bike. Alright, so some of the defining factors of an old school bike, like I said, bars like these ones are very common. Also the pairing bars where they have two sets of top bars are very common. Or no, I'm sorry, they're not as common, but you will see Perrine bars. Or I'm sorry, Pellegrine bars. If you can find those, that's really cool. But it's not like a dead giveaway. You could just have really nice bars. But with these, it's more about finding them at like barn finds, or going to estate sales or garage sales and looking for these kind of bikes. You're better off finding them with people that don't really know what they have, rather than finding like a Moto Mag by somebody who actually collects the bikes, because they're so sought after now that the price tags are like a Mongoose Moto Mag right now is going for insane amounts of money. Same with GTs. GT Performers are going for ridiculous money, and Schwinn Predators are very common and very sought after. But another thing like to watch out for, you're probably going to have more one-piece crank systems on these older bikes rather than the like just bolted three-piece. But these aren't even like true three-piece. They're more of like a cheapened version of a three-piece crank. So, but like I said, the other thing is you don't want to have pedal back. If it has pedal back brakes, technically, it probably more than likely is not anything that's worth a whole ton of money, unless it's super, super old school, like an old Schwinn Stingray or something like that. But you're going to be able to tell the differences with that, because it's going to be a banana seat bike. Whereas this, obviously, is just like a regular old plastic seat bike. Like I said, not a bad little collector's piece, but not something that's going to make any kind of profit. So early learn, A little bit of a mistake, but I'm going to clean this one up and we'll see. I might even actually do this one as a giveaway bike. I might do like a like, share, subscribe kind of thing and we give away either on the Facebook page or through Hybrid. So, but yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Hybrid BMX. When we come back in a couple of weeks, we're going to be taking some rust off, and I'll teach you guys how to take rust off of bikes. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace, love, rock. Deuces.